Okay, welcome again, everybody. So we'll jump right into things this evening. So we have around 15 or 16 contributors, it looks like, and we'll have a little chance to share a piece. Could be the piece that appeared in Wild Earth Journal, something else, combination of one and the other, um, and go through a couple of items. So first up, JD Goodman, I see you on the list here, so hello. You could unmute yourself for the moment and join right in.
All right. I have sort of weird luck where I always wind up first when I do these things. I don't know what's up with that, but maybe some sort of curse on my family. But I'm going to read first a poem called Hotel Morning Number 3. And then if I have time, I'll read a piece that appeared in Wild Earth 17 called Goal. And I'm reading them together because they're sort of companions. I wrote them sort of during a month-long stay in the same place while I was living in one location. They kind of came out of this same place where I was living in sort of a tourist town by a river where people came and went. Hotel Morning Number 3. Midnight's agents return in a haze of middle age and joint pain, once blunderbusses, now targets, homes for nesting crows. Has there ever been a day so clear? He asks. He's made a jaw rest from his fist. Sky has jagged edges which his offspring do not see. Distant boats on far shoals wear fog-like jerseys. Somehow he knows this. Somehow he knows lots of things. Somehow he can taste a mountain flower. The sky has jagged edges, his house on shifting soil. He can do so little to chase the children down their fairy paths. But he can taste a mountain flower, bite down hard to offset the ache, and he will sleep a long time tonight. And then, do I have time for one more?
Sure, absolutely.
I got the thumbs up. Let's see. Goal. I backstroked too far upriver, and a little white bird made Emerson circles around me. Decaying docks which dot the water held out against a soft tide, keeping me company. I thought I might drown. The eye is the first circle. The little white bird, clucking his jaw, and I, gritting my teeth, felt as one. I thought of Moses in reeds and Leviathan in the deep, when that dead-eyed gull floated off somewhere. Every action admits of being outdone. When Patrick sent the snakes out of ire, 2 caught their breath in Beira and said, "I'll see you in America." I can't say if they made it, but to swim against the tide, or to presume to, is to see the world made plain. That's all for me. Thank you.
Chris Wharton.
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron, for putting this together.
Sure thing.
So I'm going to go ahead and read the poem that was published in May of 2022 in issue 14. I have a collection coming out this year, and this poem will be in it. It's called Early Monday Morning. I can't stop pointing out the stars. Hours before sunrise, I'm on my front porch, a deck that faces woods and darkness. We have no street light, no neighbors, so few lights in this part of town. The stars are a map I'm still learning to read. Below me, my yard is dense, darkness I can't see no matter how many times I blink. Above, the stars form a patchwork, some paths, a sequined banner of bright, less bright. My boy dog sits at my side, silent, awaiting the answer to some existential question I'm not yet aware of, one that is bigger than, why am I here? And because the answer never comes, I think perhaps it isn't that big. Perhaps it is, why are there so many shades of darkness? Or why do we cry when we're happy? I show him Orion, recently returned to our sky, and the Dippers, constellations I've known since I was a child. In Argentina, I searched the stars this same way. White and blue, yellow pinpricks, arms of the Milky Way, reaching from Chile to the mountains behind me. No dippers, no Orion, no knife, no belt, no handle to hold the familiar. The pre-dawn black all around and above, as unknown to me on that mountain as I was in that world. Had I disappeared, a grain of soil in the midst of a million others, I might have never been found. As those unknown stars were gone to me, as we all are, each one of us, day to day in this world where we think we know our place, but we can't always recognize what we're missing. Thank you. And if it's okay, I'll read one other. Okay. This one's called Haze. It will also be in my collection, which is actually called Alchemy. Got to get the light just right to be able to see this. This poem is called Haze. This morning, tornado weather, the sky a peculiar flat blue, no clouds, no wind, a stillness not unlike the careful way you move through your parents' house now, afraid of the comments, masks are a burden, Fauci's a liar, gas is too high, electricity is expensive. Their world is the worst it's ever been. You can't see the cacti on the mountainsides. Is it smoke haze? This desert landscape is burning. We're using all the water, ruining our sky, ourselves. Your world is the worst it's ever been. You wake with a headache each morning from the pillow, air pressure, the stress of not saying what you think, of watching your parents become theirs, you become them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Shannon Christine.
Hi, how you doing? I am a first timer here, so thank you. This is such a wonderful community, and I'm really glad and happy to be reading with such poets. I brought one along, and it's the one that just got published in the January edition. It's called How to Repot a Root-Bound Plant. Eventually, all containers, all homes run out of space. Tightly packed, no room to wiggle to move. Claustrophobic quarters, tangled roots, grip, latch, suffocating, pushing outward, reaching, coiled in, around, spiraled, primary, secondary, all clinging for life. Use one hand to support the vessel, the other cradles the crop, barely holds on, enough to coax, to loosen, to guide. The plant holds tighter. Flip the pot to the side, slow and gentle, steady, steady. The plant grips tighter. Encourage her freedom, feel her release. She slides outward, reborn. The plant sighs, deeper, deep breaths, gulping, air, sunlight, droplets, roots unfurling, refusing to break, to drown, to choke, to wither, respite the plant accepts. Dust away the excess dirt clumps, soil stuck, tethered in the roots. The plant grieves. Place in a larger container. Nestle the earth around the base. Feed and water. Provide light, latitude, time to settle in and grow. Room to spread. Thank you.
Next we have Liam Day.
Hi, everybody. Aaron, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm going to read two short poems. The first is the one that was published in the journal, and that's called Antiquing. I'm not quite sure how the brimming barn's 4 floors of buckling boards support all the beds and tables, bureaus and divans. In one corner leans a portrait of a son of rural gentry. Nascent widows peak like 2 rows of hoed earth already encroaching on the young heir's smooth forehead. Painting in the rest, now carrion for scavenging birds who, before flying off to feather brick and hardwood nest, pick over what the dead left. And then I decided to go with one more with an aviary theme, Hawk Down. Hawk Down. Icing on stale cake, last night's snow coated the sidewalk in front of the half-wrecked ice company depot, chipped tooth in the smile of a sun rising behind it. Chunks of concrete clung to steel rods of its skeletal frame. Near it sat a demolition crane, motorized T-Rex, pear-shaped ball hanging taut from boom. Before we traded ice boxes for Frigidaires, company and assets were, according to the Times, worth near $2 million. Forming half an angel with one good wing, it swept back and forth on the pavement, the other shorn at some point from its body, head swiveling to eye the passers-by who stepped into traffic to skirt it. A hawk sprawled on the sidewalk. It neither sought nor found relief, unused as I expect to need it. Predator, not prey. How easy to believe will always be. Thank you.
Great. We'll move along. Next we have Emma McNamara. I'm sorry.
McNamara. You're good. It's McNamara.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me back. I really appreciate everything that you guys do at this journal, and it's a great community here, so I appreciate it. I'm going to be reading my piece called "And She Asked Me, Have You Ever Been in Love?" which was published in issue 14. Give me your love seed, let me water it, cherish it, indulge it with unblinking eyes. And soon, my dear, we will have a flower, a daffodil perhaps, but you must let me water it, cherish it, indulge it with sweet sunlit smiles from good morning to good night. And I'll be a wild woman, one of those divine creatures I found mysterious as a child. And soon, my dear, we will have a garden teeming with overgrown daffodils, but you must let me water them, cherish them, indulge them with scattered specks of summer till winter creeps on in. And I'll be a wondrous woman, not simply in age, nor body, nor spirit, but in love. And soon, my dear, we will have weeds and pests and moldy memories. Our daffodils will be mere dust, but you must let me water them, cherish them, indulge them with spoiled songs we sang in blissful obscurity. And I'll be a woman-loving woman, sheltered within the folds and crevices of Aphrodite's womb. I'll mold a fresh woman out of clay and rumors and sinner's serum, then paint sapphic stanzas on some straight stranger's tomb. And soon, my dear, we will have a barren land. Heaps of nothing will plaster our bare bodies, stretch across our thin skin. Soon we will exist as infertile soil. Nothing will grow here, and nothing will pity us. And when that day comes, my friend, I will return your love seed and beg you to plant it elsewhere. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Emma.
So Melody Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi. This is my first time here with you guys, and I do really appreciate what you're trying to do. And I also was surprised and appreciated that you accepted my strange poem, which, you know, I had written it sometime before, and it is wild. So here we go. I'll read 2 poems, so I can read one that isn't quite so brutal. All right. So this poem is another way to think about Little Red Riding Hood. I might not mind being eaten by wolves, clutched in their big paws, rank thrash and scramble, glitter in their yellow eyes. I don't mean to romanticize. I almost hear tearing, my own squeals crunching between curved teeth, sinews ripped bit by bit, pups mule for regurgitated meat. Not that different, really, the struggle to survive, slow sacrifice of self across so many afternoons, denial, compromise, the inarticulate lies when all I want to be is pure, not animal, but blood, howl, power as she bounds hungry through the dangerous night. An odd and strange poem. All right, cave painting. This poem's coming out in Crab Creek sometimes. I can never remember the names of the caves in France, where ancient fingers painted slender legs of horses with improbable bellies. Imagine iron oxide and soot in stone bowls, minerals blended into shapes with pads of moss, the artist poised between fire and the curved wall of the cave. A rust-colored horse, outline of a bull, a charcoal stag with antlers the shape of dendrites, no people. The walls, the roof, every crevice teems with what lived above, images evolved from materials at hand and the divots geology left behind. Once, a doctor sent a camera down into the base of my left lung, steered it through the chambers of my heart. He was looking for the cause of the bleeding. I was young then and imagined the pulsing walls of my heart smooth and red. Today, I expect rough spots, artifacts of the life I've led. Or maybe there's a herd of horses bloated on optimism, manes feathering up from their necks in coal, legs so fragile they scarcely bear weight. Sometimes when I wake at night, I feel them still running. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Melody. I hear that a lot. I didn't expect this weird poem to get published. So there's a running trend. Sometimes we publish a weird one or two in every issue. So appreciate that. Thanks. Next up, Veronica Barker Barzell.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me.
Hi. Sure, let's try this. Thanks for being patient. So yeah, this was one of your pieces.
Yes, so I'm mostly a printmaker, and I do go back to painting on occasion. And so this piece is I made it out of linoleum where I carve the block and then I ink it and I run it through the press. But the image itself, I was inspired last time I was in Israel pre-pandemic. I went up to Masada and I was standing there like in the middle of nothing basically. And at the time I was thinking that the ibex were gazelles. I didn't really understand the difference. But I was thinking about these ibexes out there kind of representing our ancestors, and ancestors being sort of a general term because Masada in itself had so many different peoples coming through there at various times, from the Byzantines to the Jews to the Romans. And so I was just thinking of these creatures watching over us, and like this, always there, whether we're there or not, you know, the history and the energy. And so the design in the background, the patterns, that was all taken from some mosaic work I saw there, because I wanted to incorporate that feeling into this piece. So that's that.
Yeah, it's a little long to fit on the screen, but
Yeah, sorry.
There we go, close enough. Thanks for that. And then the second piece, and if you're following our Instagram account, it was kind of coincidental that I posted this one, I guess, earlier in the week, and you're joining us for the reading. Wasn't intentional, but hey, what the heck? It worked out. So this one, me and Brenda.
Yes. So this one's an etching where I do it on a zinc plate, and so it's basically the reverse of the relief block where the ink's on top, and this one, the ink is basically inside the lines and then also sort of on the plate. Use acid and aqua tint and all this other stuff to get the various shadowing and designs into it. But the piece itself, I was just thinking about, like, I grew up in basically a Navy community, and I was picturing sailors in the pub somewhere telling tall tales about mermaids that they see out at sea or would desire to see out at sea from any port. So I have a lot of I have Celtic design in here, and then I have some Ismic tile design. I was trying to make it more of, since sailors kind of travel the world, I was trying to incorporate different groups in a sense. And mermaids, kind of I think almost every mariner culture has something in regards to mermaids. So that's what this piece is, basically. That's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you so much I love hearing some of the background and some of the inspirations, especially with the visual art pieces too. So thanks for that. Oh, I was going to add, as a Capricorn, I appreciate the gazelle, even if I know it's not a goat, but it's kind of, has kind of similar imagery. So it was
Right.
an anecdotal kind of connection. So I had to include that for the January issue for the Capricorns out there. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Victoria Dim.
Yes, hi. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. I do want to thank Aaron, and also thank you, Misty, for helping out. We have the Hatchet Son, which is under contract, and that was a poem that I had in issue 12, my title poem for my full-length manuscript that's going to be out this year. But I'm going to read, I read that poem last time, so I'm going to read two other poems that I have. Originally, the title for this manuscript was Living with Lizards, and I did change it to The Hatchet Son. But here is Living with Lizards 3. I carry him in the yellow watering can that I keep in the bathroom closet, where he breathed his last lizard breath, where I found him motionless, months dead. Unceremonious, I wear no bra, no makeup, finger comb my hair. His funeral only I attend, at the garden, his final resting place. I spray water in the can. He floats upwards towards me, a small one, a teenager, paper thin, washes to the ground with a flip of the can near the flowering Mexican thyme. His lifeless, immature body now glistens in the light of day. I examine his claws, tail, can see his skeletal outline under his leathery skin. He had starved in the yellow watering can, desperate for food and water, crawled up in the spout and died. Was he alive at Thanksgiving? At Christmas? In my earlier days, I may have flushed him down the toilet like pet guppies or goldfish, but today I minister to this departed soul who died alone. He was, after all, a secret roommate, a presence that breathed the same air as me. I deliver him back to the earth. It's Sunday, 5:30-ish. I am thirsty. I return to the apartment to finish New Year's cleaning, to my cat. Wonder, who's next? And I have another really short one, which is also going to be in the collection for the Hatchet Son. This one actually was published by Carlow University Press in volume 22. If ancient forests fall, Then what of the wood stork and her baby? Like wraiths floating white just to the right of the boardwalk, fashioned from bald cypress, slithering like a Burmese python through this corkscrew preserve. Markers like gravestones naming the vanished, burned to their knees, cypress logged. The language of egrets silenced. No more the rhythm of the pecker, the alligator's slimy soup and salad, teeming green swamp gone, hiding claws and scales and bulging eyes of diamond yellow. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, thanks. Next up, David Goodrum.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, gotcha.
Good. Well, thanks, Aaron, Misty, for inviting me and pulling this great group together. It's lovely poetry tonight. Behind me is a detail from Fallen Leaf and Rain #2, which was in number 16 back in September 2022. I took it in 2020. There was something going on then. It didn't go anywhere, and I kind of walked around the neighborhood, and I've spent a lot of time pausing and reflecting at things underfoot. And this Fallen Leaf was one of those. I also have a poem coming up in issue, I think, number 19, called Distilling. And it's in 3 titled parts, all very short. Treacle. Words often used as sugar. Infinitely poured grains banked against love's erosion. Sweet, though compost for others. The second is called Words Worth. Savor simple words, often discarded, gathered by gleaners, knowing that words matter, repurposed forever where most needed. And the third one for poems Sake. Each word polished with care, fermented for days as more are appended, amounting to nothing or clarity. And the other poem I'll read was published in Star 82 Review last March, called Waiting for Discovery. This is no time to anticipate whether or not the bird will fly to the branch or the reed, or if her feathers will stay floating on the pond. For it is almost the wakeful evening, and I am somewhere between the sleep of roiling water and the sleep of ice, which wait not for the dream of bone, but of marrow, that chases the bird from the woods to the field, from stone to stone. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So we'll move on to Justine Payton.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here. I think it's wonderful to hear everybody's work. And for me, this publication was actually the first time that something I've written has been published. I've only been submitting things for the last few months, so it was very exciting, and I'm very grateful to the Wild Root Journal for making this piece spread larger than it would be having just sat on my computer. So thank you for that. This essay is called Do Leaves Hurt When They Fall? And it was in the January issue. Do leaves hurt when they fall? Abscission, the natural detachment of parts of a plant, a cyclical process that transforms summer into autumn, a harbinger of wonder and grief. He grips one finger as we walk. It's all that he can hold in his small hand, the knuckles barely visible beneath a chubby layer of baby fat his 2-year-old self has yet to shake. He looks around with an occasional misstep, head tilted towards the sky. He is memorized by the world we have entered, an alleyway between homes in Rittenhouse Square, where trees taller than the 4-story townhouses stretch across the cement expanse. The late October winds spiral falling red, orange, and yellow leaves in whimsical swirls around us. The nipping gusts are cold against my cheeks. His have turned a cardinal red from their kisses. His face suddenly shifts from wonder to sadness, and he says something that I can't hear above the wind and rattling branches. Kneeling down, I look him in the eyes. What is it, Harry? Do leaves hurt when they fall? His lips are trembling as tears pool in the corners of his large brown eyes. He looks to me for an answer. I lift him up into my arms, pulling the weight of his tiny body into my own. I don't know, darling, I whisper, and twirl us around so that he begins to laugh. But see, the leaves are dancing on the way down. Later that night, after Harry's parents return home, the 21 bus carries me back to West Philadelphia. The days are shorter now. The luminescence of storefronts, cars, and street lamps cast shadows on busy streets as people cower underneath scarves and hoods, only their fingers left exposed by a supposed necessity to click immediate responses on their phones. Harry's words play over and over again in my head. Do leaves hurt when they fall? Holding his tiny hand in my own, carrying his small form in my arms, how could I tell him the truth? That the entire earth is hurting. That we, human beings, have catalyzed a catastrophic geological age fueled by industrialization, greed, and exploitation. That forests are weeping as their trees are felled and invasive species proliferate. That the oceans are moaning as their waters heat, their fish are stolen, and their coral die off. That mountains tremble in nakedness, having lost the nourishing cover of snowfall. That animals scream in terror, abused and used in industrial complexes, and made extinct by a relentless expansion into their wild realms. That children inhale fumes and exhale disease. That the light of the fireflies is gradually diminishing into darkness. Meanwhile, the bus I ride coughs out around 0.64 pounds of CO2 per mile as it bounces over Philadelphia's ubiquitous potholes. It's better than a car, far worse than a bike. It'll cost the Earth 1.92 pounds of CO2 emissions to carry me home. Wind whistles against the glass. The fluorescent lighting is as harsh as reality. In answer to Harry's question, the realm of science provides little. Plants lacking a central nervous system are denied the possibility of pleasure and pain. While many Eastern and indigenous spiritual beliefs proclaim the inherent divinity of all life forms, the Judeo-Christian philosophies that dominate the West condemn the natural world as inferior, bereft of a conscious soul. Freed from guilt by calculated indifference, we carve names into bark and sever inconvenient limbs. We ensconce trees in cement cages to accommodate impractical shoes and to proliferate the aesthetic of control in straight lines. We uproot forests to satisfy our insatiable carnivorous demands, and like animals encaged in CAFO facilities, we plant rows of saplings in commercial forests with illusory benevolence, not for the tree's edification, but for our own indulgence. Ignoring science and prevalent beliefs, I wonder about a reality where leaves hurt when they fall, forced to leave the embrace of their tree's branching and interconnected limbs. Do they forgive the tree, knowing that abscission is a natural form of self-protection, a way to remove unproductive appendages in order to survive the harsh winter? Do they let go in selfless surrender, knowing that sacrifice is often needed for new beginnings to take root? If they depart with consciousness, perhaps they do dance on their way down and celebrate, as few do, an awareness of their purpose and meaning in the greater matrix of life. Once nestled on the cold ground, perhaps they reminisce about their time above, when by the potency of their own being they transformed sunlight into life, when their countless trichomes quivered in ecstasy over the caress of a summer rainfall, and they exchanged secrets with the wind, passing messages from branch to branch and tree to tree. When the hum of cicadas vibrated their green petioles in a vibrant celebration of life, and they gazed each night at passing constellations, making wishes on shooting stars that the humans missed. What love is lost between the leaves and the tree when autumn comes? I imagine the leaves must feel the pain of separation when they are swept away down city rain gutters or into black bags as trash, thus denied their natural reabsorption as organic content into the soil that is meant to feed their tree. The tree and the leaves must both think it is a temporary separation, knowing that with time and patience they will connect again, deeper at the root of existence. Maybe this is why the trees howl so loudly in the city's winters, bellowing a song of separation and grief over lost love. Their voices tell the story. Humans are the villain in this tragedy. To write with anthropomorphic themes is an accepted literary tool. To live by anthropomorphic beliefs is deemed atavistic, unscientific, and possibly pagan. And yet how different the world would be if we allowed ourselves to see through the eyes of 2-year-old Harry. A world where falling leaves can hurt and the natural world around us is alive with sentience and dynamic relationships. A world lived by the dictums of imagination and wonder, inspiring us to delve into the unexplored depths of interspecies empathy and compassion, emotional experiences unreadable and unteachable by scientific tools or theorems. A world where we live in eagerness to hear the varied cadences of the wind and relish raindrops falling onto our upturned faces. A world where autumn's pigmented brilliance and cascading leaves reminds us of the reciprocal love between the tree and its leaves, as apparent as the intimacy we share with those whom we love. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Justine. It's always good to be a first publication too, so that's a good insight. Thanks for reminding me of that. And next up, John Tessitore.
Thank you. I'll read 2 poems. I think I'm last, so I'm going to read the heavy one first and the happy one second. We can end on a high note. The heavy one was published in issue 16, September, of Wild Roof. I'm always grateful, so thank you. It's called The Second Law. I've wasted so much time beating back the vines that threaten to take our home, when tiny tendrils always seem to find small cracks and widen them. So much of my brutal effort suddenly seems so futile. I had forgot that I too am part of the system, that I will spill into the irreversible sooner than later. I had forgotten that neither of us would hold forever, that change always follows the transfer of air, water, energy from one body to another. I should have been better prepared for the inevitable. It's so hard to watch things crumble now after so long a struggle. And that's heavy enough. So I'll close with an honest to God love sonnet, which was first published in Boats Against the Current. And I've also collected in a recent little collection I put together called Body Songs. It's called, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, I have a title I've never really pronounced out loud. It's called Amygdala. The condition of love is the motion of waves, the fall and rise, steady, never still. The ancients assumed its source in the heart, the pulse, the rapid coursing and rush from chest to limb. The brain, without a muscle of its own, did not match their experience. The ache, the flutter and twitch of desire. I have tried to be quiet and mindful, to sit on my pillow, stare at my wall, but there is no end to the movement, the pumping, the doubling of the rhythm. Love plays itself to exhaustion, then plays itself again. Perpetual beginning. A love song is a melody repeating. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So that about rounds out our hour. Thank you again, everybody, for joining, taking the time out of your night to share something you've been working on or had published. It's always good to revisit these. From my perspective, I've seen them when they were submitted. I've seen them when they were accepted. I've seen them when I put the issues together over and over again. But it's always like a refreshing and new experience to actually hear them and to revisit them. So even from my perspective, it's something worthwhile and inspiring. So I'm sure you probably share some of those emotions, some of those thoughts. So my recommendation now is open up your Word file, open up your notebook, strike while the iron's hot, as they say, and get something down while you're feeling those creative juices flowing. Misty, do you have anything else to add? Anything else?
Not really, just
I
thank you all
forgot.
for coming, and thank you all for your bravery of sharing your work in the journal and with us tonight.
As you're going through the chats, one anecdote, Trapper, you're here from as a visitor this time, you read last time. I shared your anecdote about the creation of your poem last time to my students, where we were doing free writing exercises or intuitive writing exercises. I said, you know what, a poet I just had on a reading, a group reading, said he got a poem out of making a list of 10 verbs in a minute. And he ended up with a poem out of that silly exercise. So, once you start a silly writing exercise, you never know where it's going to go. So even if it feels like it's not going to go anywhere, it feels like you don't have anything to write about, just do it and go through the process, and you might come out with a poem at the end. So thanks for sharing that last time, because I passed it along.
That's awesome. Thanks, Aaron.
See you again soon.